You're listening to the Night Demon Network. Go to nightdemon.net/subscriber to unlock more exclusive content.
Every weeknight, it's Buzz After Dark.
You like that?
With Eric Steele.
Hang out with me Monday through Friday from 7 to midnight for the Buzz After Dark. It's kind of like the Titanic, except instead of 3 hours to sink, it takes 5 hours.
Freaks come out at night, that's for sure. The Buzz After Dark. After Dark.
All night long.
Awesome tunes, clothing optional.
Hope you enjoyed the ride.
Weeknight 7 to midnight on 102.9 The Buzz. Bill's Rock Station.
Night Demon fans and friends, we are calling upon you to get Welcome to the Night added to rotation on 102.9 The Buzz. Text the Buzz hotline at area code 615-399-1029 to request Night Demon's Welcome to the Night. That's area code 615-399-1029. You know what to do.
Hello and welcome to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. I'm your host Nesbitt, and this is part 2 of the Cirith Ungol Story. So if you haven't listened to part 1, I suggest you go back and listen. In part 1, we discussed the formation and the rise of the band and the first 3 albums. Cirith Ungol was amassing a big fan base, but that wasn't translating into commercial success at all. And frustration was creeping in due to what they saw as a lack of success. So turmoil in the band led to members leaving, and when we left off last week, there's only 2 members remaining in the band. But there's a lot left to the Cirith Ungol story, and we're going to jump right back into it here. This is the Cirith Ungol Story, Part 2. So, continuing from last week, 1986, Cirith Ungol releases One Foot in Hell. It's their first release on Metal Blade Records. And despite the album being a strong entry, it doesn't translate to a demand for shows or for financial success, and the band is getting frustrated. This was peak hair metal in LA at the time, and a heavy, doom-laden metal band wasn't in demand in the image-driven 80s glam scene. Here's Robert Garvin, drummer, Cirith Ungol.
Even though One Foot in Hell was strong and a success musically for the band, any kind of financial or commercial success was still beyond our reach. The band was tired of long nights of working at our secret lair with few concert dates played. This took a toll on the band, and Jerry left the band, followed by Flint.
So Jerry Fogle and Flint both quit, leaving Rob Garvin and Tim Baker to push onward. Here's where Jim Barraza, formerly of Ventura band Prophecy, enters on guitar.
Yeah, this is Jim Barraza. As I recall, when I joined the band, Flint and we worked together to try to get me up to speed on their songs, to put together a set list. I was better or more adapted to the One Foot in Hell album, and just wasn't quite getting the Frost and Fire stuff. It was a little quirky for me, but we got enough songs down to do a gig, mostly One Foot in Hell material, and maybe a couple on King of the Dead. And maybe after, I don't know, 4 months or so, 4 to 6 months of being in the band, did my first gig with them, and I think that was at, it was called Guitarist in Hollywood. And, that whole scene down there, pay to play, there was no money to be made, and you're just thrown into a lineup at strange hours. But anyways, we did that, and a few other gigs, mostly, either the San Fernando Valley, we did one, and then most of the time up in our hometown, a few different places, Who Sings Cantina, Club Soda, I think Nickelby's. A lot of these places are gone now. They either became a thrift store or, a bait shop or something. But the scene in Ventura is not really happening. So, anyways, we tried our best back then, and we were pretty much, homebodies at that time.
So the musical climate in metal was shifting away from the traditional metal sound at the time. I quoted last episode Rob Garvin when he said, "It's just sad when we were together and kicking ass and no one wanted us to play anywhere." So despite the scene at the time, Cirith Ungol forges on with new material.
Jim Barraza was a local guitarist with much talent, and he joined a band while we were hammering out the music, which would be Paradise Lost.
August of 1991 sees the release of the 4th studio album by Cirith Ungol, Paradise Lost.
Glowing with victory in hand.
Paradise Lost is a solid slab of metal, really highlighted by Jim Barraza's guitar work. Some of these songs would go on to be Cirith Ungol classics. My personal favorites, the last 3 songs, which make up the 22-minute-long Paradise Lost trilogy. Here's Armand, guitar, Night Demon.
And then Paradise Lost, which brings in Jimmy on guitar, who had some big shoes to fill, I think. I mean, having to learn all the back catalog, and then also, play something and write his own stuff that has to hold up to those first 3 albums. It was a big job, and I think he did really, really well with it, and he still does really well with it today. And I mean, dude, the shit that he wrote on that record, it's fucking awesome, dude. Join the Legion. The Troll is kind of one of my, it's like a funny favorite of mine, because it's, again, just fucking, what is that scale? It just takes you to that land of magic and fire and trolls and fucking orcs and all that shit. I could just picture them, cruising around the forest looking for elves, the big troll thing. Don't know. Funny, I went to, there's a troll, like a sculpture of this huge sculpture of a troll under a bridge in Seattle. And when I first went there last year, I had to put that song on while I was hanging out by the troll, because it just felt so right. Their cover of Fire, fucking so good, man. When I got to play with him, that was one of my favorite songs to play. Besides all the originals. Arthur Brown. Yeah.
Fire! I'll take you to burn. Yeah, fire! I'll take you to learn. You're gonna burn. You're gonna burn. You're gonna burn.
I always love when bands take songs that are like not in their wheelhouse or their style and put their own twist on it. I mean, that's the way you should do a cover, in my opinion. And then the whole trilogy thing at the end, Chaos Rising, Fallen Idols, Paradise Lost, that whole piece of music there, because it is one piece of music to me. And when they do it live, they kind of play it all as one thing. Really goes well together, and the whole story from Dante's Inferno, which I think it's what it's from, kind of based around.
What is up, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners? This is your resident motor mouth, Jarvis Leatherby, telling you about something very, very special here. The Decibel Hall of Fame Anthology Volume 3. This is a book, guys. That's right. We all know Decibel Magazine as the #1 metal magazine in North America for many years running. But you know what? They also have a fucking killer book series, okay? I want to tell you about this. The Decibel Hall of Fame Anthology Volume 3. This limited edition hardcover includes 25 Hall of Fame stories from Decibel's revered monthly series of artist interviews on the making of their classic extreme music albums. Featured in this book are stories behind classic albums such as Stained Class by Judas Priest, apocalyptic raids from our good buddy Tom Warrior's Hellhammer, Pleasure to Kill from Teutonic German terror creator, Court in the Act from the legendary new wave of British heavy metal gods Satan, and of course, Abigail from the legendary King Diamond. And last but not least, Night Demon's personal favorite, Heartwork from the only other band from Liverpool, Carcass. So guys, please head on over right now to store.decibelmagazine.com and grab a copy to read the definite stories of heavy metal's definitive albums. Put in the promo code Night Demon upon checkout to receive 10% off. That's Night Demon, one word, all capital letters. Get your 10%, store.decibelmagazine.com. While you're there, guys, go ahead and grab a subscription of the Mag 2. They've got a great vinyl flexi series. Do yourselves a favor here. Get on the level. Store.decibelmagazine.com. Promo code Night Demon. See ya.
So despite Paradise Lost containing several timeless Cirith Ungol classics, the experience of making the album was soured by friction between the producer during the recording process and a record company who did nothing for the band in the way of promotion or touring. And with a total lack of label support, the band was frustrated. Here's a clip of Rob Garvin explaining from an interview he did with Fogle Trainer on the Feckin' Metal podcast.
We ended up going back to Enigma, and they'd actually been sold to Warner Brothers at the time, I think. And so they morphed into Restless Records, and then they decided, okay, well, we'll put your album out. But when Paradise Lost came out, they didn't do anything to promote it. Matter of fact, most of our fans were in Europe, and they asked me to contact companies in Europe to see whether companies would like to license the record over there. And several companies which had done before Frost and Fire and King of the Dead said, oh, well, you guys sound the same as you always did, and we're not interested in your music. So, I mean, that kind of just died right there. And 2 weeks after Paradise Lost came out, we got a letter in the mail. We'd signed a 3-album deal with them, and they released us from the contract.
Okay.
And a couple of more guys then left the band, and which ended up with just me and Tim sitting in our band room going, what are we going to do? Are we going to continue doing this? We'd been together for 20 years, never made any money. I mean, that's a joke. Sometimes nowadays we complain about money because we're broke. But back then, I remember paying, and this is when money was worth a lot more than it is now. I remember paying around $500 a month out of my own pocket just to keep the band going for close to 10 years for the band room and fan mail. I'd go to the post office and it'd be like $100 to send letters to Europe and stuff. So we were spending quite a bit of money. And even though that we wanted to keep it going, all the speed metal stuff was exploding in Europe. All the hair metal thing was going on in Los Angeles. And we just didn't feel like we were a part of any of that. And we thought there was no room for the original classic heavy metal that we were playing for anyone to either appreciate or listen to. Yeah. And we, at the time when we broke up, we didn't want to, but I think we looked around us and we just said, we've done this for 20 years. Hey, we had some fun, but how much longer, we're going to spend the rest of our life supporting a band that never gets any recognition or notice. And so we just kind of decided, hey, before, we turn into old men, we're going to, hang up our thing and move off to stage left.
That was from the Feckin' Metal podcast, episode number 10, November 13th of 2020. It's a great interview. If you want to hear the whole thing, you can find it on the Feckin' Check-In podcast network. Here's Tim Baker, vocalist, Cirith Ungol.
Things that kind of run its course at that time. There's some great stuff on that album, especially the Chaos Rising, Fallen Idols, Paradise Lost trilogy. and joined the Legion and stuff. We were getting no push. We were getting nowhere. We had no management. We had no, really any support in anything we wanted to do. So, everybody kind of quit. The band was just really kind of hanging on by nothing. So we just decided to call it quits. And the last one standing were Rob and I. And we just said, we can't go on just looking for new guys. So, that was the end of the band back in 92.
Here's Jim Barraza, guitarist, Cirith Ungol.
A brief note on Paradise Lost, I would say, I don't know, first thing that comes to my mind is it was in my situation, it became, kind of grueling after a year or so of just, working these songs out and playing, getting ready to go in the studio. But the studio date was always kind of unknown and pushed out, and we were kind of unsure whether it was going to happen. Finally, I guess Rob was working on it. He worked it out with them, and he told us it to go. So that was a lot of relief. But I remember that, and the relief of when it was finally finished. At that time, we wanted to go out and do some gigs, and I'm not sure how many we played, maybe, I don't know, just a handful, four or five gigs with the Paradise Lost material. At that time, I was getting burned out on it, and, my daughter was just born, and you got rent to pay, and I think the economy was kind of tanking at the time, and I just had to do something. I ended up signing up for the Marine Corps, which I ended up not going into for other reasons. But was just trying to find a way out. Just music came to a realization that the music scene and the band scene or whatever wasn't going to do it for me. So unfortunately, I lost interest. And when I went to Barnes and Noble's, a bookstore, years later, I was looking on one of their computer machines where you could actually locate songs, and then I think you could have the machine spit out a cassette for you. You could purchase a single on cassette, and I was reading the description, Cirith Ungol, Paradise Lost, and you can see it on the web. It's still there. I think it used to say, or it still does say, the band broke up in the wake of Barraza's departure. So it's definitely noted that I departed the band, and Tim and Rob, stuck it out, tried to keep it going, but eventually they decided to give it up.
After the whole Paradise Lost debacle, here's how the band broke up. At the time, everyone had quit except for Tim and I, mainly because the music scene here in Southern California and the metal scene in general was moving off into a territory we thought was the anathema of everything that we thought was and had come to love as true metal. We had always played by our own rules, struggling against fads and current trends, swimming constantly against the tide. And at some point, we saw no clear way forward for the band. We reluctantly decided to lay the being called Ungol to rest, not unlike the elder god Cthulhu, sinking beneath the waves, brooding and waiting for the stars to realign.
So Cirith Ungol plays its last show December 13th, 1991 at the Ventura Theater. In 1992, after over 20 years, Cirith Ungol disbands. So even though the band is broken up, sort of unbeknownst to the band, because they'd never played a single European gig, Cirith Ungol had a diehard fan base across the Atlantic. But for these European fans, any hopes of a Cirith Ungol reunion were dealt a major blow with the tragic news that co-founding guitarist Jerry Fogle died of liver failure on August 20th, 1998. Here's Jarvis Leatherby of Night Demon.
I think the whole thing surrounding Jerry Fogle was just a really sad story. But just Jerry's lead playing was just so amazing. And the guys always tell stories that Jerry would never play anything the same twice. And if you watch any of those old live videos, it's just some of the improvisation that he does on the solos are just so incredible. I know that frustrated the guys a lot back in the 80s in the studio. I mean, they were recording records and, they had very small budgets from the labels. And, sometimes Rob was borrowing money from his parents to advance for them to get in the studio and record. And it wasn't cheap then, and you didn't have a lot of time. And, Jerry would spend a lot of time just kind of being a perfectionist with the guitar solos, but really never playing anything the same twice. So he would he could just sit there and burn time for days and never really be happy himself. And when it came down to that, it just kind of left Tim with really no time to do the vocals. So Tim was kind of like a 1 or 2 take vocal guy. And really that's what he is today. And it's awesome if you're the guy recording him too. I mean, he nails it too. He doesn't mess around. He goes in and gets it done. I've always been really jealous of that. But I mean, that's how things were then. And, Jerry got pretty depressed, and, the guys have always said that, he may have been, I guess one of those guys that was kind of on the spectrum that wasn't really diagnosed then, but maybe some form of Asperger's or autism. I mean, he was a little socially awkward and, but he had his ways, and the way that he spoke was through music. And even Jimmy, Jimmy came into the band because the guys wanted a second guitar player to add to what Jerry was doing to be even more powerful. But Jerry didn't like that idea. So that's when Jerry left the band, and then it was just Jimmy, and it was a 1 guitar player band still. But I mean, I can only imagine what that would have been like. It just would have been so amazing. But yeah, it's really sad. I mean, Jerry just basically went into a deep depression, and he never did rejoin the band, and then the band broke up. And I know Tim and Rob had been kind of visiting him there at home on and off, but, he drank himself to death, and he had a lot of bad people around him. And it's a really sad story. I really wish he could be here today to reap some of the benefits of his work. But one thing is that, as I said, his legacy will live forever through this music. And not a lot of people can say that.
All hail, Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. This is Dusty Squires chiming in to tell you about my brand new signature sticks from the London Drumstick Company. I've dreamt of having my very own drumsticks ever since I was a wee lad, and LDC made that a possibility for me. Founded in 2016 in London, England, the birthplace of heavy metal, the London Drumstick Company has trailblazed a path through the music industry and taken the drummer world by storm. When I met them for the first time, they knew their product was going to withstand the beatings of a Night Demon show. They took the time to work with me on getting everything just right. The balance and weight of my sticks are the same no matter what, and the durability is bar none the best I've ever had. I know my sticks will last through the set night after night. I'm truly honored to work with a company that caters to their players the way LDC does. Their innovation and attention to detail is what separates them from the rest of the stick makers out there. Their custom stick sleeves are unbelievable and really make the entire presentation complete. Wait until you see the design they came up with for me. It blew my mind and was a surprise to say the least. They have all kinds of amazing swag, including hoodies, t-shirts, drummer shorts, drum keys, stick bags, towels, face masks, practice pads, and much, much more. Even if you're not a drummer, you can be a part of Demon history and order my brand new signature sticks direct from their website. How cool is that? And to top it off, the London Drumstick Company are giving an exclusive offer to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast listeners. Go to londondrumsticks.co.uk and receive a 15% store-wide discount using promo code DEMONSTICKS. All capital letters, no spaces, Demon Sticks. DEMONSTICKS. I can't thank everyone there enough for the opportunity to be a part of their family and for them trusting me with their amazing products. See you metal maniacs on the road very soon. And yes, the wood chips will be flying.
So after the breakup, none of the members really pursued music at all. Robert Garvin actually swore a blood oath to never touch a drumstick again. So even though the band has been broken up since 1992, in 2001, almost 10 years after the breakup, Servants of Chaos is released, which is a compilation of unreleased live, rare tracks and demos. And sales of the album showed that there was still interest in the band from their fans, despite being inactive for years. A few years later, in 2004, Greg Lindstrom joins trio Falcon after being inactive in music for over 20 years. Here's Greg Lindstrom, guitar player Cirith Ungol.
So starting the band Falcon with Perry Grayson and Darren McCloskey, and we started in 2004 in Falcon.
So now back in the music scene after a long absence, Greg starts to pick up on the fact that Cirith Ungol still has a rabid fan base.
I mean, I knew there was a lot of call from people for us to reform, just from selling Cirith Ungol shirts on eBay, because I was sending a lot of them to Germany, England, and Greece. So I knew there were fans out there. I guess I didn't know how many, but I knew there were some folks.
And if t-shirt demand was an indication that there was a huge underground appetite for Cirith Ungol during this period, another sign would be the Cirith Ungol tribute album that was released in 2005. 1 Foot in Fire, a tribute to Cirith Ungol. 11 Cirith Ungol tracks covered by 11 different metal bands. So this is the part in the story where Night Demon comes into the picture. Here's Jarvis Leatherby.
I didn't really hang out or know any of the guys in most of the dark years. And when I say dark years, I mean the years that, I guess, between 92 and 2016, when they weren't a band. I did know Rob Garvin, the drummer. We had gone back a little bit, and I was introduced to him through Carl Valdez, the drummer of Ill Repute, who also worked for the city of Ventura, and Rob had worked there as well for 38 years. And he kind of hooked up Rob and I, and me and Rob would we would just call each other a lot and kind of arranged like hangout sessions. He'd be like, yeah, I want to come over. I want to hear your band, or, maybe you can come over. I've got all this old Cirith Ungol stuff I think you might want. I don't have any interest in it, And he was just kind of trying to dump stuff off. I remember one time he tried to throw the master tapes to King of the Dead, like the 2-inch multi-track, again, the trash. I was like, yeah, you might not want to do that. But, at those times, those guys, they had a bitter breakup in 92, and they just were tired, They had done it for 20 years, and they kind of swore off music, and none of them really did anything in between that time musically. At least the guys that were in that last incarnation of the band, I don't think anybody really did anything. They didn't play in a band. They didn't do anything musically. I know that they just kind of like went their separate ways, and kind of buried music in the past and had a really sour taste in their mouth, that they had been screwed over, that the music industry machine had basically chewed them up and spit them out, and they had nothing to show for it but a broken heart. I mean, that's pretty much why Jerry Fogle died. I mean, he pretty much drank himself to death out of depression. And Rob swore he'd never touch a pair of drumsticks again.
I had only become aware of Night Demon when I met Jarvis. To be honest, after the band broke up, I wasn't that much involved in music. I still listen to music around the house, mainly all the heavy metal I grew up on. Plus, every once in a while, I'd get some new heavy metal records and listen to them. But other than that, I wasn't following too closely what was going on in the local heavy metal scene.
I had been in contact with Rob, as I said, and we would talk a lot. And then when Night Demon was on tour, we would do phone calls every now and again, and I would kind of like try and reunite the band, or at least get him to kind of spearhead it a lot. And I would try and do it in inadvertent ways. And then he would just shift the conversation to something like, hey, the Scorpions are playing at Santa Barbara Bowl. Can you get me backstage passes, or tickets or something, And then I'd try and make a call and see if that could happen, and it usually did it. But, we just kind of became slow friends over that time. And, I think the evolution from there, I mean, the story tells itself in a way, but basically these guys had little to no connection or contact with each other for the bulk of about 2.5 decades. I would say when I started to realize the intense demand of the band to reform, besides just looking at just general YouTube views and just going, wow, I can't believe that so many people in the world are listening to this record. I mean, granted, they're listening to it for free. And I had known some people that worked at Metal Blade Records, and I know that they were reissuing the Cirith Ungol stuff, which was interesting to me. But really, it was when Night Demon started to tour Europe. In 2014, our first tour of Europe, I mean, it was crazy. Just every gig we played, somebody had a Cirith Ungol shirt or a patch or even tattoos. I mean, crazy stuff. And once we went to Greece and met the Greeks too, I mean, they were just crazy. They were like, oh, you guys know these guys? And we're like, yeah, what? What's the big deal, right?
The thing is, even though Cirith Ungol had been broken up for over 2 decades, with the onset of the internet and the reissuing of the classic albums by Metal Blade, a fan base for Cirith Ungol had exploded in Europe. Here's Dusty Squires' drummer, Night Demon.
Well, when we did our first European run in 2014, Cirith Ungol patches were all over people's jackets, and even people had Cirith Ungol tattoos. There was Cirith Ungol vinyl for sale at the swap meets. I remember one gig in particular when we played the Keep It True for the first time in 2014. Cirith Ungol records in the swap meet that's inside the venue, or at least it was at that time. It was inside the building. You would see Cirith Ungol records, you would see Cirith Ungol cassettes, you would see their back patches, regular patches, anything that you could really put those praying skeletons on with the logo. We saw Cirith Ungol everywhere. And I remember in particular Jarvis contacting Robert Garvin, and this was when, them reforming or reuniting was so far out there. And I know promoters in the past had really had a hard time trying to get those guys to get back together. But we saw that there was, a really strong presence in Europe for their band. And they hadn't been a band. I mean, they broke up in 91? Here we are in 2014, so it's 23 years or something. And, that's a long time for a band to not really be doing anything and to have this underground following. I mean, I really think that the internet helped them become a popular band over there. I don't think people would have really found out about them, especially the younger generation. So it was really cool to see that they had a following over there, especially because I didn't know anything about them. So I knew right then and there that there was a demand and that they were really loved by people all over the world, which I think is amazing.
I remember even one of our earliest features in a European metal magazine, the headline read "Neighbors of Cirith Ungol." It was crazy. It was like almost like we were getting pressed because we were from the same town as these guys. It was unreal. So I remember I was in Vegas once. I was at the Hard Rock Hotel. I can't remember what I was there for, maybe a concert or something. And I was talking on Facebook Messenger to Oliver Weinsheimer, who's the organizer of the Keep It True Festival in Germany. It's the biggest traditional metal festival in Germany. And it was really cool. I mean, Night Demon got asked to play basically right away, right when we became public as a band. And that was a huge honor for us. But I was kind of talking to him, just bullshitting about whatever. And I said, I think I'm going to get Cirith Ungol back together. And he was like, yeah, fucking right. There's no way that that's ever going to happen. I've been trying for 15 years. I asked them at least once a year. I've offered them a bunch of money. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Why did we resist the call to reunite for so long? The reason why we resisted for so long is probably because of the same reason why the band broke up in the first place. We were just frustrated with the whole music scene, and we really saw no reason to get the band back together. I mean, we had lots of people over the years try to do that. Come play a concert, blah blah blah. We really didn't have a band, or there really was no band to speak of at all.
And so I kind of just took that upon myself as a challenge, really, and just said, I know how difficult this is going to be. And of course, with my talks with Rob over the years, I already knew. I mean, it would be such a long shot. And I mean, just those guys, after just being away from it for so long and being away from music in general and each other, I mean, it was a thing that was just, it just didn't seem very likely at all. And if they were getting offered money to do it and they were turning it down, I just didn't really know what else would entice them to do it. So when we were touring, I started taking a lot of photographs. If I would see a t-shirt or a patch or tattoos or, whatever. And I would send stuff to Rob. Or I know he really liked Ferraris. He's obsessed with Ferraris and stuff. So when I was in Italy, if I would be near the Ferrari factory or see a car out there, I'd send him stuff like that. Like, hey man, you got to come out here. Like the band getting back together basically is the ticket, to getting to see the world and see the things that you've never seen. Because the band had never toured ever. They played in Mexico in 1982. I think they did 1 or 2 shows down there. I think it was just 1 show actually. And then they just played regionally between Los Angeles and Santa Barbara. I think that was the span. I don't even know if they ever went up north to San Francisco. I don't think they ever played out of state from 1971 and 1992. I mean, it's just crazy. But their records were distributed all over the world. So their name was around. They had the great artwork of Michael Whalen. And they had something going. They had an imagery that they had some legs to stand on, but they never really fully stood up and started to walk. I mean, I guess that's the best way I could say it. I mean, really, it was the whole thing of going out to Europe and seeing these things and really, really getting an idea of how important this band was. So that was really the catalyst for me to kind of take it seriously and really push these guys into at least just getting together and hanging out. I mean, I wanted to know the story. I wanted to know where it stood today and if it was possible at all.
With an uphill battle ahead of him, Jarvis plants the first seeds of reunion, and it all starts with the Frost and Fire Festival.
Metal Blade Records presents the return of heavy metal legends Armored Saint with their 8th full-length album, Punching the Sky, a diverse, attitude-drenched collection
It's everything the band's faithful have come to expect from them while pushing their signature sound forward. Featuring 11 hard-hitting tracks available on double LP and Digipack CD. Right now, Metal Blade Records is giving all Night Demon Heavy Metal podcast listeners a 15% store-wide discount on all Metal Blade releases and merchandise, including this masterpiece from Armored Saint. Go to indiemerch.com/Metalblade Records and enter promo code NDPodcast at checkout. This store is loaded with tons of swag from some of the best bands in metal, like Midnight, Cirith Ungol, Merciful Fate, Angel Witch, Satan, and of course, the mighty Armored Saint. That's indiemerch.com/Metalblade Records, promo code NDPodcast. So march like a saint and take the last train home. Can you deliver?
When we came up with the idea for Frost and Fire and how we were going to dedicate it to the spirit of Cirith Ungol, and I had a feeling that we were on the right path. You know, first off, throwing our own festival. Second off, you know, really putting it out there that we're paying homage to, you know, a band that we respect, especially from our area. It just kind of went hand in hand. It felt really natural to just keep progressing with the idea that we are going to throw this festival. I remember we were on tour when Brent was still in the band, and we were in, I don't know, somewhere in Florida. It was either Orlando or Tampa. I'm not quite sure, but we were hanging out in this parking lot because we didn't have anywhere to go, and we were just hanging out after the show, killing time until we could drive again. And I think Kid Ekman was with us when we came up with the whole idea for this, and it just made sense to us. We were like, we want to throw a festival on the West Coast in the United States and do something that other festivals are doing, but do it a little better, or do certain things that we don't really like at some of those festivals. We just knew that we could throw a really great festival that people would want to go to.
So this brings us to October of 2015. I had been promoting concerts for a long time. I basically started in high school when I had a band of my own, but I started doing smaller shows at a laser tag place in Oxnard, California, and then graduated and went up to the Ventura Theater and started to book bigger concerts there. And I did that until I was in my early 20s, and then I started touring again with bands. But I mean, even after that, I always put shows on here and there, and I've been putting on kind of bigger festivals, bigger underground festivals, I should say, annually in the Ventura County area, while still touring with Night Demon. And I mean, basically, we had been traveling all over the world and playing all these great metal festivals. Some were great, some were not so great. And besides my 20-year background in putting on festivals and concerts, I kind of looked at all the festivals that we were doing and was just like, okay, let's take the good things about these festivals and let's recognize the bad things about them, and let's combine them with what we can do to make the best possible heavy metal festival we can. And there was room for it. I mean, there was nothing on the West Coast like it. Nothing. It wasn't happening anywhere. Not in the Pacific Northwest at the time, not in Northern California, not in the deserts, nowhere. It wasn't happening. There was Defenders of the Old Fest in New York. There was Ragnarocker Fest in Chicago. And there have been a couple even smaller ones around the country, but very, very few. So we knew we had something happening here. So we booked the Bombay Bar and Grill, which we have a lot of history playing, a lot of stuff there. And Diego, the owner, was really cool with us. And we did a one-day event, and I wanted to call the festival Frost and Fire. because it was taking place in Ventura, and Cirith Ungol put Ventura heavy metal on the worldwide map, and Frost and Fire was their first album, and that is, it's widely known, and it's an iconic record, and I thought it was a great name for a festival. So I got their blessing to do that. Well, basically, I got Rob's blessing to do that. I mean, he was the only one I was really, really strongly in contact with at that point. It was just a one-day festival, and I had Manila Road coming out from Kansas and Ashbury coming out from Arizona, Visigoth, Savage Master, Bat, Blade Killer, Steel Prophet, the legendary metal band. So it was pretty good. Gygax, which was a kind of Thin Lizzy-inspired Dungeons and Dragons band that Armand was playing in at the time. So Armand wasn't even in Night Demon at the time. He wasn't in the band yet. But so we pulled it off. We sold it out. It was great. We did this festival this one night. But what I really wanted to do was to have the members of Cirith Ungol sign autographs at this for the fans. So we had went out to dinner with, we went to Casa de Soria, which is a legendary Mexican restaurant in Ventura. And it's been there for decades. And famously, there's a Cirith Ungol 8x10 glossy in one of the booths, and it's been there since like 1990. So that's the kind of the booth we kind of try and sit in. We went there. It was me, Rob, Tim Baker, Tim's son Matthew, and Brent Woodward, from the original guitarist of Night Demon. And we just met and hung out and talked. And Tim was so cool. And he was just so stoked that we were doing this, not to honor Cirith Ungol, but just to bring heavy metal or bring something like this to Ventura. He thought it was just so cool, and it was something that the town really needed. And so, what I ended up kind of pitching it as was that Rob Garvin and Tim Baker from Cirith Ungol were going to be signing autographs at the show, and it was advertised on the poster.
At that point, we couldn't get the band to reunite, so we just said, hey, just come out and do a signing at our festival. And, the band at that time, they didn't even believe that they had such a following overseas because they had never seen it before. They didn't know it existed. So they were thinking like, oh, who's going to want to come out and meet us and have us sign their records?
So we started getting a lot of interest. We were selling tickets from all over the world, and people were coming in just to meet these guys, just to meet these two guys. And so I took it one step further and got a hold of Greg Lindstrom, Jim Barraza, and Flint, Mike Vuja, the original bass player. And all these guys ended up saying, yeah, I'll come out and do that and sign autograph. That's cool. These people were just like, there was just a huge line for them at night, and they were signing these autographs. And here's five guys that have had such a strong musical history together that probably haven't seen each other. I mean, some of these guys in, 20, 30 years, just crazy stuff. And here they were all in one place. And there's legendary metal happening inside. There's bands playing. And these guys are outside meeting their long-time hardcore fans that are flying in from all over the country, all over the world, just to meet them. I mean, there was a guy, I think he came, he was in prison for 20 years, and their music got him through, and he brought stuff to sign that he had made in prison, some weird stuff. I even remember myself and Kit being at the Habit next door, which is a hamburger place. I just needed a break to get some food. And running into Jim Barraza, who I had not met yet. And Jimmy's like, hey, you guys going to the fest? He's like, yeah. And I think he had bought a ticket. I'd asked him to come over the phone. We haven't met yet, but I had asked him to come and do this. And I think he had misunderstood, and he bought a ticket to the event even. And
I was at Habit, the Habit Burger joint, which is right next door to Bombay and Ventura. And this guy comes up to me and he's like, hey, I'm the guitar player in Cirith Ungol, or I was. And I'm like, okay, guy. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, this guy doesn't look like he was in Cirith Ungol at all. And it turns out it was Jimmy Barraza, guitar player in Cirith Ungol. And I'm like, okay. And then when the signing happened, Jimmy was like sitting down with the band. I think eventually because I don't know if he bought a ticket. I think he bought a ticket to go in because I think the band wasn't really talking to him at the time, or I don't know the exact story, but I remember like meeting him and saying to myself, like, there's no way this guy is in Cirith Ungol. And I felt really bad once I found out that he was.
Yeah, the first Frost and Fire signing session, I'd heard about it, like the week before, and I was like, oh, wow, these guys are signing. Well, I kind of wonder, are they going to invite me? I thought this was just a Rob and Tim thing. I contacted Jarvis through messaging. I'm like, hey, Jarvis, can I get a pass or whatever to come to the show? And he's like, no, you can come down here, man. We're having a signing session. Yeah, I got you covered. Anyways, I went down there, and the signing session, just people bringing all kinds of stuff for us to sign. And we'd ask them, hey, where are you from? And we heard lots of, Germany and from, London. And I think one person said Russia and another person said China. So we were like, wow, that's pretty cool. And they brought their memorabilia and we signed it, and definitely very, very cool to experience that.
I remember them sitting there and just being so surprised how many people wanted to meet them.
As the British say, I was gobsmacked at the number of people that came with all their Cirith Ungol albums for us to sign. I was amazed and humbled, I guess. But that was pretty awesome.
It was simply amazing seeing people from all over the world come who knew about our band, who knew our material and our songs, and had albums and photographs and stickers and posters, everything under the sun for us to sign. It was incredible. And to this day, it's something I'll never forget.
It was pretty amazing to see all the people from around the world, and they brought all their stuff for us to sign.
When they did come out, I think they signed for like 2.5 hours. It was insane. People were so excited. It really made the festival pop off that first year. And I think they really got excited when they saw the dedication that these fans have to what the band has brought to the table and how they've influenced them over the years. So it was really, really awesome to see the excitement from the band and the fans, and the possibility that the reunion could happen.
But it was a great reunion for all these guys. And Oliver Weinsheimer, the guy I mentioned from the Keep It True Fest in Germany, flew over. I was stoked that he came, and I got him a hotel room for the weekend and just tried to take care of him like he takes care of us when we come out to Germany.
I know Oliver from Keep It True was there, doing his research because he wanted their first gig. He knew that we could make it happen once he saw that they were there. The right people were at that festival too, promoter-wise, that saw the excitement and got to talk to the guys in the band.
We had a little meeting at a sushi restaurant across the street, Sushi Marina. That place has been a downtown staple for years. And it was the members of Cirith Ungol and Oliver. And he threw out an offer for them to come and play the festival. And it was like, no decision was made then. I'll tell you that. No decision was made then. There wasn't even a decision to jam or anything like that. But there was a decision to consider the possibility of possibly getting together and seeing maybe if playing music was even a possible thing for these guys at all.
It was an impetus for us to maybe think about, doing it again.
So that was one step in the right direction. And I say that was the first giant step in the reformation of the band.
It was really cool, and it really started the ball rolling for us as far as our reuniting.
So the first seeds of a reunion are planted, but there'd be a lot of hard work before they play on stage together again. Most of these guys had not touched an instrument since the breakup almost 25 years earlier. We will get into more of the Cirith Ungol story next week, including their long road to their triumphant return to the stage at Frost and Fire 2, and their long-awaited conquering of Europe, plus new material and news on future Cirith Ungol releases. In Garvin's words, when the ancient stars aligned, Cirith Ungol crawled out of its ancient slumber to wreak havoc on an unsuspecting world. Be sure to check out the subscriber section on nightdemon.net. There's all kinds of cool content in there. We have the 1 Foot in Hell promo bio, unearthed studio photos from recording Paradise Lost, photo galleries from Frost and Fire 2015, photo galleries from Cirith Ungol and Night Demon's first reunion meeting, concert posters, all kinds of cool stuff. Be sure to check it out. Until next week, this is Nesbitt signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast. Head over to nightdemon.net, click on the subscriber tab, and sign up to access exclusive weekly bonus content. If you would like to donate to support the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast, you can do so through PayPal at paypal.me/nightdemonmetal. Additionally, if you have not already done so, please subscribe, like, rate, and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Unbearable suspense that keeps you on the edge of an abyss of terror.
Take a cult film odyssey into Cinemadness with Cinematic Void. Based in Los Angeles, Cinematic Void is a film series that specializes in horror and exploitation films. Currently, we are hosting Cinematic Void Up All Night in the Cinemadness movie, a monthly virtual screening series, as well as the Cinematic Void podcast, where we dive deeper into the world of cult cinema. You can find Cinematic Void on the World Wide Web at cinematicvoid.com, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you like what we do, you can support Cinematic Void by joining our Patreon. Until next time, see you in the void.